What's up, everybody, and welcome back to the third episode of Fast Expand, the Warcraft 3 podcast here on HeroesHearth Warcraft 3. We have a stacked roster of beautiful and brilliant gentlemen coming in right at you. We have our lovely co-host, Rehcram, of course, as always, and our special guest for this episode is none other than the man, the myth, the legend himself, Neo from Back2Warcraft. Man, how are you doing today?
What a lovely introduction. It's been a day of meetings today. I thought I had a day off, but all of a sudden I had like 6 or 7 meetings, but they were all very good. I'm in the best mood possible. I got a beer next to me, and I'm looking forward to this talk.
Very good. Rehcram, man, it's been a while because Blizzard kind of, prevented us from doing a podcast last time. So how have you been doing during all this time?
Yeah. I mean, a lot has happened in the Warcraft aspect of the things since we last talked. So, yeah, I've been doing great. Like, it's been awesome with both BlizzCon and, the beta being released and stuff.
You guys played a lot of the Reforged beta yet?
I played one game. So, I wouldn't say so, no.
Let's say I spent a lot of time in the game. I didn't play too many games, actually, because, the matchmaking is yet to be improved. But, yeah, I did play more than I usually do.
It's actually harder finding a game or getting into a game than actually playing the game these days in the beta. So hopefully with the upcoming Night Elf patch, there's going to be some performance changes. There's going to be some fixing on, how the matchmaking works and how stable the client is. But yeah, I think that's going to be our main point of topic of discussion later on. Of course, Reforged is kind of like the behemoth that's overshadowing the entire Warcraft 3 scene right now. Before we get to that point, though, I want to talk a little bit more about our guest today, about Neo, because, man, you have such a rich history in the game, and it's really cool to finally have you here. So why don't you just introduce yourself really quickly to the people who live behind the moon, and have never heard of you before?
Yeah, my name is Neo. I'm casting Warcraft for 11 years now, 30 years old, from Hamburg, Germany. I started as a radio commentator back in the day, and switched to video casting in like 2014, I guess, when the game was dead, and we helped to revive it a little alongside my co-caster Remo. And yeah, whenever there's a Warcraft tournament, except Fight Night, of course, we're there to cover it for you. And it's every day is a blessing that we still have tournaments and such a cool community going on.
Very true, man. So I couldn't agree more with you. There is so many cups, tournaments, leagues happening right now, especially in Asia. I think there's an abundance of, pro Warcraft 3 stuff that people can still watch. Now, quite frankly, do you have any goals for Reforged once that comes out, or are you just going to maintain your current schedule and just cover all things esports?
I think we will both go full-time. I think we announced it on a couple of formats now, so it's not like a big surprise, but it's super exciting to not have a side job anymore, to not work in an office for like stuff that is not interesting to me at all. So yeah, it's gonna be every day is gonna be Warcraft, and I'm not the guy who can go for the in-depth analysis. I'm well aware of that. I think I'm more on the entertainment side of things, so I don't want to steal your podcast idea or something, because you do a wonderful job doing so. But yeah, something along those lines, doing some more entertainment formats for the community, I think is my goal, at least.
Wouldn't it be boring, though, if both Remo and you had the same strengths and weaknesses, right? So it's good that you guys are kind of like the plus and the minus on the pole,
Yeah, I think I'm the plus, for sure.
No, really cool to hear about your plans, man, and I wish you all the best, and I'm pretty sure, you guys are nailing it right now already, and you've built such a great community, so I can only see the best for you coming up. Rehcram, what about you, man? So Reforged, you're going to stick to your current status, or are you going to try hard a little bit more? What are your plans when it comes to the game and, outside of the game, too?
I don't think I'm like the guy that has a lot of plans, like generally speaking. So I just like take one step at a time and see how it goes.
Right.
So right now, of course, we write like strategy guides and whatever I'm motivated to write for Warcraft3.info. So yeah, for me, it's just like a passion. Of course, it's like a hobby, so I can take the liberty of doing just like what I feel like.
Yeah, that's always important to highlight, guys. Warcraft3.info. I think currently you guys are looking for additional staff members, right?
Yeah, we posted an article, under a week ago or so, and Neo tweeted about it. And it's actually given a lot of response already. So that's really nice to see that people are, want to back up about the project and, help with proofreading or managing our Twitter account or writing themselves. So yeah, it's really nice to see that people, want to chip in as well, since they enjoy what we do.
Yeah.
I mean, the project Warcraft3.info is not monetized or anything, but it's so cool how much passion you put into it, and you're a really cool gang. Like the Warcraft3.info gang, it's really nice to hang with them. Yeah, just a cool team to be part of, and I can only recommend joining the team.
Yeah, great source for all things Warcraft 3, whether it's strategy guys, whether it's news or replays, they have an abundance of good data for you guys to check out. Rehcram is basically my go-to guy when it comes to providing me with replays. I always text him on Discord, "Hey, you got a good replay for me to cast over?" And he's like, "Yup, boom, boom, bang."
Yeah, I just take we have two guys who finds dozens of replays a day almost. So it's insane how much work they put in, and they do find really good replays as well. So that's nice.
Yeah, very good ones. Oftentimes has it happened that I wake up at 7 a.m. and I'm very pumped to give that replay cast a try, and then I open this replay, didn't really check it out. It's a 50-minute epic slaughterfest, and I just go back to bed because I'm so hammered after that.
I'd say I've started to try to mix in some 15 minutes games and stuff, so it's not like the cast a nightmare every game.
It's really crazy. Like if you have a 50-minute game, and of course you have no breaks in between, and I think we're both more on the energetic side of things instead of the analytical part. That's really exhausting, like physically exhausting to talk in such energetic fashion over something that happens on your screen.
It really is, because there's no worse thing in esports than the dead silence, the dead air. Yeah. When there's just like a minute or two. In normal commentary, normal sports commentary, it's like a normal thing, right? You watch some football, you watch some basketball, and sometimes there's just nothing the commentators can talk about, and then you just watch the gameplay, trickle in 2 minutes, 3 minutes. But in esports, that's like a no-no. You can't do that.
What are your favorite games to cast? Is it like this very short, explosive games, or is it like the games that drag on with many fights?
Like, if I'm solo casting, my favorite games are team games that last for like 20 minutes, because the game, it's kind of like a slow start for 2 or 3 minutes, and then there's action everywhere. And as a play-by-play caster, you can just focus on the action. That's really cool. That's my favorite thing if I'm casting alone. With Remote together, I like when things calm down a bit and you have the time to analyze what needs to be analyzed, and build a story within the game where there's these tug of war plays where one player is pushing and the other is defending, and then things calm down a bit, and then the other player is pushing and the second player is defending. That's my favorite, certainly.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm always the weird type of guy who just enjoys the early game the most, whether I play MOBAs or Warcraft 3 as well. I just love the first 5 to 10 minutes, right? When you have like a sizable army, not really a mass of units streaming in. So I love the early aspects, like the harassing, the build order highlighting and stuff like that. But I enjoy it most, but that's probably my personal favorite stage of the game, if you will. So yeah, a good question, actually. I never thought about that before, man. Never thought about what games I enjoy casting the most. But what I certainly did enjoy a lot of when it came to Warcraft 3 lately was going to BlizzCon. Neo, Remor, and I, and some other lovely folk that were invited by Blizzard themselves. We got to spend some time in California, and there were some ups and downs. I think that's probably the fairest thing to describe it. So there were some crazy announcements, Diablo 4, Overwatch 2, and these crazy cinematics flying and popping up everywhere, left, right, and center. And I think so. Before we dive into the Warcraft 3 Reforged performance, I just wanted to first ask you, Neo, because you were also there live in person. What was your overall impression of this year's BlizzCon? First, like in general, and then maybe on Warcraft, because you were there as well.
Yeah, I think they tried to cater a lot to the old school fans, especially with Diablo 4, of course, and especially with Diablo 4 going more into a direction of Diablo 2 and a lot of destruction. I mean, runes are back. The druid is back. You were super excited about that. That was cool to see.
Yeah.
And like my personal moment was last year. I kind of bonded with a moderator of the Diablo Reddit, and last year all they got was Immortal, which was of course the biggest letdown for any Blizzard franchise ever, I think. And seeing this guy so happy this year was my personal BlizzCon moment. Yeah, I mean they addressed the Hong Kong situation in the beginning, so all the there was not much protest, but there were a lot of people with Hong Kong T-shirts, and they let that slip. So there were no restriction or no censorship against that.
Even saw the Winnie the Pooh cosplay there.
Exactly. Yeah, true. Yeah, so that happened. It was nice. I guess it was my second BlizzCon. I definitely enjoyed last year's more because of Reforged, because of how
you didn't spend as much time with me, so
yeah, last year. No. That was actually that was this year's second best thing, to spend more time with you. Last year was very briefly, I think, because you were more on the hero side of things.
That's right.
But you made a good change, mate.
Thank you. And
I felt last year was a little more, felt more like family-esque.
I think it's safe to say also, if you look at the whole Blizzard side of things, like last year we had, people that took really good care of us. It was very personal and intimate.
Yeah.
Don't want to say that we weren't taken good care of this year, but we just didn't have, a dedicated person who just looked after us and invited us over for some nightly activities, So that sounded way naughtier than I wanted it to sound. No, this year was a little bit different, but still good in its own way. Rehcram, man, you unfortunately didn't have the pleasure of going over there. So, from someone who stayed at home and watched it from afar, what was your impression, man? How did you enjoy it?
Well, I didn't really follow anything but the Warcraft things. So I took good usage of Neo's tweeting. And the live feeding of the panels and such they had. So it was really nice to follow the the bullet points he came with. And I'm actually, I would say I'm positive. I'm not really surprised, but I'm positive about Reforged and the direction they are taking. Obviously, there's a ton of things to improve, and I think they know that after reading all the feedback. But I think some of the technical aspects are pretty good. That how they will connect the two battle nets, as far as I understand it, and they'll optimize the performance and such. So I'm not too afraid of how it's gonna be, because I think it can only be better than what we have now, and I'm pretty happy about what we have already. So yeah.
Hey, a lot of people, just to name a few, I think you guys agree with me on that one anyways, but, Grubby, I saw a tweet by Ente, and a lot of people, who play the game a lot, they say it feels good, it just doesn't look perfect. And that's way better than if it were the other way around, wouldn't it be?
Definitely. I think I have to correct myself here a little, because in the past year, I was of the opinion, because some people told me, I think, that it is the exact same engine, but it's a shader on top. That's what I was told by some people. Apparently, that's completely wrong, and they pretty much redid the entire engine, so it's absolutely not the same game. I mean, it is, but it's completely different under the shell or something. So that they were able to recreate the Warcraft 3 feeling is a gigantic accomplishment that they don't get enough praise for at the moment, I think.
Yeah. Absolutely. It's always easy to be nitpicky and to say, well, this looks bad and this thing is missing and I want my male Death Knight back, and I don't want the lady to ride that horse. And, it's always easy to be nitpicky about that. But when it all comes down to the final product, I think it's safe to say that the mechanics feel good. We will have very likely a good ping in the games, which feels amazing. Like when you have a lucky game in the beta right now and you play against someone in the same region, it feels amazing. It feels very fluid. And, they can still adjust the scaling, the looks, the terrains, the textures. These are all things that are probably already in a more advanced state in the internal version that they have on their servers. So,
I hope so.
We hope so. We hope so, at least. I mean, the Night Elves were already shown on the presentation that they had at BlizzCon, and they looked freaking fantastic. I think when it comes to the Night Elves, me personally, I think they look the strongest out of all the races we've seen so far. In terms of looks and feeling, not in terms of actual strength. Do you guys think the same?
Yeah, I don't really remember all the units of Night Elf, but I remembered particularly the Ancient of Wonders when it like uproots and starts walking in
the turtle.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
In the small clip they had, and that looked super impressive. So, if all the other buildings and the units look as good as that, then I might switch to Night Elf only.
No. I was really surprised that they released Undead 3 days after BlizzCon.
Mm-hmm.
Like, wouldn't BlizzCon be the perfect opportunity to showcase that? Is 3 days, does 3 days really make such a big difference? Because I was pretty disappointed with the BlizzCon build, to be honest, because it was pretty much the same as the beta, a little more up.
And you couldn't leave games.
You could with like Control L or something, but nobody knew that. But.
Yeah, the timing was super weird because we got the beta 1 week before BlizzCon instead of like releasing it at BlizzCon like one day after BlizzCon, and then the Undead, as you said, drops in like a few days after. Like that seems kind of random, like the timing of the things. I'm supposed to have a good reason to do it, but I didn't really understand that part of it as well.
Yeah, me neither. It was kind of the same for Heroes of the Storm, right? Where they had one of the like fan favorite hero wishes released a week before on Twitter.
They showed Deathwing, the Destroyer of Worlds, like 1 week prior. And Heroes these days is also a classic game. So maybe for the classic games, they were like, we're just gonna leave the stage to the big boys, Diablo, Overwatch, Hearthstone, and stuff. I don't know what the reason was for this. I also was baffled by it quite a bit.
Yeah. So I'm not a game dev or something. I have no idea how hard it is to change colors and scaling. But I guess like they are aware now that this is an issue and silhouettes are an issue. They mentioned this on the panel a couple of times. So I hope this doesn't take too much time because they still want to release in 2019, as Matt Morris told us in the group discussion.
Yeah, we were all like big eyes, when he said this year, because there was, a little bit of murmuring, a little bit of rumoring in the back. I talked to the Back2Warcraft guys and other people as well, and I was like, I wouldn't even be sad if they said, you know what, we're sorry, we're bringing it out next year. And you guys agree with it, right? You said, just make it polished, make it feel good.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, there's some really obvious examples of what Neo said earlier with, textures or scaling not being super proportional. I mean, right now, I had this one game where I had a Dark Ranger level 5. I summoned a skeleton, and that thing was freaking huge. It was bigger than the Abomination. And I was like, okay, so let's try to surround someone and click at someone in that surround because they're all overshadowing that poor target in between. So yeah, it's not perfect. And the Infernal, I know Side is very sad about that. It just doesn't look right.
No, I think there's like the Undead spells, there's definitely a lot missing. If you look at a Coil, if you look at a Nova, if you look at the Impale, if you look at Carrion Swarm, that's ridiculous.
Yeah.
And I think it's just not finished and will be in the next patch or something, because that can't be a final version. Like, no one seeing this can think, okay, that's great. Right?
Did you always get a chill running down your spine when you coil someone and you hear the death sound? You're like, oh shit!
What did I fuck up now? Yeah.
So, Rehcram, man, you're a human main, aren't you? We talked a lot about the undeads and Reforged. What about the humans? How happy are you with them, or maybe the orcs as well?
Well, as I said, I didn't play too much, so I'm probably not the best person to give like feedback on everything. Overall, I think orcs are the best race released so far.
Yeah, I think they look pretty cool.
Yeah, I think there are some minor problems with the human casters in particular. I think the riflemen are really good and the footmen are really good, but both the Zorks and the Priests, they look a bit similar, and it's hard to distinguish. And on the Spellbreakers, there's like a Bordeaux color on all of them, no matter what team color you have on. That's really weird. It looks like it's like on a Bordeaux team players team, and even though there's no one in the game. So I think those need a bit of work.
Yeah, I definitely agree. Especially with the casters, Zorks and Priests. For the Undead and Orc, it's pretty easy to see what caster it is. But for Human Man, I couldn't cast a mass casters game right now in Reforged. I have no idea how many Priests they are and how many Zorks they are, because especially from the back, they look pretty much alike.
Yeah. And then there's also some really confusing stuff going on with some spells not having the sound animation. Or even some items not having the sound animation, so sometimes it's really hard to even tell what's going on. I saw the healing wards dropped earlier in a game that I played, and first of all, there was no aura indicating the heal, and this thing didn't even glow, and it also didn't give the initial sound, when you drop it down. So it was like, whoa, that thing, you can't spot it. It's so hard to click it.
It's so hard to see it, yeah. Mm-hmm. It doesn't move, it doesn't glow.
Mm-hmm. Just a stick in the ground. But yeah, once again, I think a lot of people, especially on social media, on the Reddits, on the Twitters, they are just a little overreacting right now. It feels like it's almost like in fashion, in style, to get on that circle jerk hype train, like trash talking the game and be like, no, it's never going to be that great. It's never going to be good. But obviously, some things are just not in the beta yet. And obviously, some things are quite doable when it comes to fixing. And it was actually funny that you mentioned this earlier, Neo, when we had the discussion before the podcast took place. Sometimes as a person, content creator, caster, it's not easy to remain neutral when you see all these negativity or all this negativity, right?
I'm a big fan of the Warcraft 3 Reddit, or I was for a long time. Since the Reforged beta, I haven't spent 5 minutes a day on it. I just can't watch the negativity without being affected by it and start to think like I still want to keep positivity that didn't work too well at BlizzCon especially, but I'm trying to rebuild it because the longer I look at Reforged, the more I like it. So I kind of have to separate myself from Reddit and YouTube comments especially. Yeah. There's a lot of good feedback though. Don't get me wrong.
Yes.
There's very rare, well-written, constructive feedback. There's a lot of good feedback that could be written nicer, I think. The tone does the music oftentimes, I guess. And the tone is a little off currently.
Yeah. You made similar experiences, Rehcram?
Yeah. I mean, it's very true, because if you, like, for example, read Happy's feedback, I think he had a lot of really good points. I don't know if you both read it.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
He had many good points, but the way he convey his message and give the feedback is pretty negative, and I don't think that's the best way you want to go about it if you want the best for the game. But I also think that, sorry for interrupting.
No.
Just finish this. I think it's important that we keep in mind that the Reforged Warcraft isn't really, meant for the players who already played the game. It's for, the newcomers who aren't really, acquainted with the game already. So when we look at it and we are used to the other things, people say, oh, it doesn't look anywhere near as good because we are used to the old thing, and, we can recognize that. And that makes it really hard for us. Sorry, you can go there.
Regarding Happy, I can definitely understand at one point. Like, his first point was that he was a little disappointed that he hadn't had access to the beta for like the first week or so. I was kind of baffled. He's the world champion. He's the biggest or second biggest streamer in Russia. And he was one of the very, very, very few pro players who constantly gave feedback on things. So not giving this guy who was so loyal and so motivated, not give him access, I couldn't understand that really. And then being frustrated from Happy's perspective, I can definitely understand that.
For sure, yeah. There were a lot of streamers actually that didn't get the beta. No, Noff didn't get the beta, and Enter didn't get
Todd
the beta.
didn't get into it immediately. Yeah.
Todd,
Not sure if
yeah.
he's
Get
right
it,
now.
Yeah. So that's also a little bit dubious that they didn't like prioritize those to promote the game. But
Yeah, I think it's a really good point that you made there, Rehcram, when it comes to saying that the Reforged project is essentially Blizzard's take and try to broaden the game up for the for the public again. There's a lot of people right now that have never heard of Warcraft 3 because they were little kids back then when the game came out. They're playing Fortnite right now, and maybe to get some new players for the game to ignite that spark of love for people, to get them into RTS games in general. That's really what Reforged is there, to expand the player base, to get a little bit of that older glory back into modern times. So, sure.
I think I have to disagree.
Okay.
Because if that's their goal, to get a lot of new people in, then they have to take these players by the hand and teach them. And they don't do that. Because we haven't heard, or it was denied, I'm not too sure, that there's no additional tutorials for like build orders, creep routes, using hotkeys, stuff like that. Like in Dota, you pick a hero and the game guides you what item is good at what situation.
Oh man, the Dota client is the best. It's
like
so good.
Especially with the world editor, right? It would be so easy to do things. And I think the community is already working on it, but you can't rely on your community to teach people the game nowadays. And I see that in the beta a lot. Like you play a game and the guy you're playing against builds an altar, 6 farms, and a lumber mill. Like, okay, man, I'm trying to let you have fun and experiment, but at some point I have to quit the game, and then it's no fun for them at all. And if it's their goal to educate people about RTS and bring people back to RTS, they have to help them more, like way more, and from the beginning, pretty much.
That's a fair point. That's definitely a fair point. I mean, you could say that 2019 we have a different internet situation where there's just more stuff available on the webs. There's YouTube videos. Back in the days when the original Warcraft 3 came out, YouTube was just in its starting shoes. But yeah, I see your point, Neo. That's for sure. Some in-game help would definitely have been nice, even if it's just a mini campaign where you just learn about the basics. I know that Warcraft 3 had that with a Thrall campaign in ROC, but that was for single player, and you can't compare the single player aspect to the multiplayer, right? Which is ultimately the long-term goal of keeping the players in there just for the multiplayer experience. So maybe some in-game compendium, some in-game lexicon of what to do and what is creeping, what is creepjacking, what is fast expanding, and all that stuff. So would have been nice.
We need them to update the Mojo guide from 2002 or 3 when it was written.
Absolutely, yeah.
It's a hilarious guide to read. There's some nuggets in it. Gold nuggets.
So all in all, when we look at all the things we mentioned, the strengths and the flaws of the beta at the moment and Warcraft Reforged, what are your personal expectations when it comes to the release in December? I think it's going to be mid to late December, near Christmas, perhaps. Do you think it's doable to deliver a good product, or do you think we're going to have that start of release, and then after some weeks we're going to have a patch and another patch and another patch until the program is finally there?
I expect a rough start for sure. I think they already said that the leaks will only be coming with the first major patch.
True.
So we know that the game that will be released will not be the very final product, as it's kind of common for Blizzard now, I guess, at least
sadly
with the games that I played, like StarCraft and Diablo 3. And for StarCraft Remastered, it was pretty much the same, and they said the game will be in a similar state to StarCraft Remastered. So I guess that's what we can expect.
Yeah, I don't know what to expect. I think, for the players who have been playing and are competitive and not streamers and such, I think a lot of them will, stay on the classics and just keep on playing as that. I did an interview with Hitman recently where he said that you'd have to drag me, unwillingly to play Reforged. I'm not going to touch that. I'm going to stay on the old.
That interview was pure gold, man. That was so well done from both sides. Loved this read. Really
It
good.
was great to like interview because I asked him about. Okay, I know I'm switching topic here. Sorry about that. But I asked him about the meta. What do you think about it? And then he just, wrote a big paragraph about how he actually think it's, for the most part enjoyable, and like he liked that things have been switched up. So
Did he complain about human, or has he actually developed some mental fortitude against that? Because I remember when he was in Fight Night, pre-hand in the interview, he said, "Oh, I can't play human, man. It's so bad." And then 3-0, boom.
I mean, he was pretty nice about it. He did say that it was his own worst, matchup.
Yeah.
And said that he would struggle a lot against Chamiko and Romantic and such. But he didn't really blame the balance that much. He said he played the weakest race, but it was more like in a fun manner.
Mm-hmm.
So he could joke about it, but he wasn't too negative about the balance, even though he would obviously like some things changed in his race favor.
And dude, Rehcram with a smooth transition over to the next topic of discussion, WGL Winter. You mentioned Hitman, the NA representative. Very cool. Neo, I mean, you're gonna cover that baby in person, in the flesh with Remo in China. Tell us, man, are you guys well prepared? Are you excited? What do you expect of this big event?
Well, we leave to China in, what is it? Today is Tuesday. We leave on like next Thursday, the 21st.
Mm-hmm.
At the moment, I'm still in like post BlizzCon mode and not pre WGL mode. I'm not too sure why. I think I have to get back into casting a lot and then start my Excel sheets and stuff. But I'm looking forward to it. It's gonna be like, I'm not the biggest fan of the round robin mode. Everyone who has listened to my cast knows that, especially with the with the WGL edition we had 1 year ago. I really think it showed that round robin is not the way to go, and the double elimination group stages are way better. And I think the system we had last year was the best, and it's really sad that they changed it. But there were some reasons for it, I guess. But that's definitely the 20 best players we have in the world, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's not too much of a doubt. Maybe Cash is missing. Maybe Cruncher instead of Hitman, but they're kind of 50-50, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe the group stage will be a little slow or hard to follow because of the point system. But man, I'm looking forward to the playoffs. That's going to be so sick. And I can't wait. This is always something special. There's no better play than WGL, and it's gonna be so hard though to top the last one. That's maybe my favorite tournament I ever casted. Not too well, maybe WCA with yours was a little better. But was it cool to see Happy shaking his fists on stream and defeating all the guys there? It was just what a cool.
It's so heartwarming to see.
Yeah.
And with Moon in his grace that like smiled after he lost.
Yeah, like what more can I do?
Yeah. It's
if a Moon is shaking his head in disbelief, like this really shows how crazy good Happy is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. You think he's gonna do it again? The back-to-back?
It's so tough because we have 3 strong orcs in the group in the tournament.
Lin has been on fire lately.
Lin has been on fire. Fly is back to former glory, I would say, with really good days, and then of course the days where he loses the Blade Master 3 times in a day. Focus is always a force to be reckoned with. And yeah, it's gonna be real tough. I mean, in his group, there's no real orc except Infi is playing orc against him. We saw that recently online, which is of course always different, but Infi lamed him to death.
Oh god.
That was so heartbreaking to see. But I would really love to know if he could do that offline as well. So Happy Infi in the group stage. It's already super juicy, and we get the rematch of Happy versus Moon in the group stage. Like, how crazy is that?
Yeah, I got the graphics in front of me, and man, that Group C is no joke.
Yeah.
Every player has the potential to just, maybe Colorful is a little bit of a dark horse in that one, but every player has the potential for an upset.
Yeah. Even Colorful is getting so much better recently. His performance last WGL in summer was kind of pathetic, but he married around that time and he got a kid around that time, so priorities were a little different, so definitely understandable. a lot of people call him Patch Night Elf. I think he definitely has potential. He's like 24 years old or so. So he has time to learn. This group is crazy for sure. Moon Happy, Infi, Sock, and Colorful.
Yeah.
But man, Group B.
So
Group
for
B
those
is
of
the
you,
absolute sickest.
yeah, for those of you who don't have the graphics at hand, we can go over the groups real quick. So Group A, we have WFZ, Yumiko, Czech, Soen, and Hawk. I think in that group, we are hardcore rooting for Hawk.
Definitely.
I think he can make it because that's a very weak group compared to the three of us.
Yeah. It's kind of unfortunate that Hawk is choking at WGLs. I don't know why. Like WCA and WEC and WCG, he was really good. But if it's a gold series, it's just not working for him. I don't really know why. But yeah, that's the luckiest group he could have gotten. And if everything goes normal, he wins that group.
Yeah. I would say so.
The average ELO position for Group A is 18.6, is someone who wrote to me. And for B, it's 6.8. 18.6 versus 6.8 average. That's ludicrous.
Yeah.
Yeah, then we have Group B, of course, with Lawlight, Fly, Lin, TH, and Foggy. Things are heating up, man. You wanted to say something about that group, Neo.
Yeah, this group, like, no player has not won at least a silver medal in a world championship. Isn't that nuts? Like, every player of this group was at one point at least the second best in the world. And crazy. All of them are in shape. I'm not too sure about Foggy, though. I haven't seen too many games of his recently, except the Hive Workshop Cup, but that was on 2 maps that will not be played, so hard to judge.
Yeah, let me just look it up. I think he's been looking pretty decent. It's hard to judge because he's, of course, always better at LAN tournaments, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm. Like you pointed that out really well in the last podcast with Side. And I think that's really important that Foggy at a tournament, when he can prepare 2 or 3 days, is a whole different beast than Foggy in a cup.
Right.
It is. And we actually saw him like in the Brick tournament that he played the match for third against Happy, where he took maps off Happy, and it was quite a close series. I know Happy said he didn't play his best or anything, but I still think it shows that he can compete with the very top still.
Yeah.
Yeah, and last but not least, we have the final group, Group D, with one of my personal favorites, Focus. I just love that guy so much. Love watching the games. Chimiko, Fortitude, 120, and Hitman. Man, Hitman. That's going to be the first time for him on the big stage in Warcraft 3. I know he used to play StarCraft 2 competitively quite a bit. And we actually saw, it's so fascinating. Like, even in StarCraft 2, there was a clip I think you made in your video, Rehcram, your hype video, right? Where he just did crazy things as Protoss in StarCraft 2. Like, this guy is something special.
Yeah, he was like renowned for being a big cheeser in StarCraft 2, where he, like, almost every game would do something completely, win or lose type of thing.
Yeah.
As far as I understood, I have no real knowledge of StarCraft, so I'll tread carefully on this topic. But he said a lot that he likes to cheese, and everyone said that this guy is just a cheeser. But he actually performed quite well, and went to an offline event in Germany where he actually qualified further from his group, but couldn't make it because some personal stuff.
Yeah.
But he is a solid player in Warcraft as well.
Yeah, there's quite some hype around Hitman, especially from the StarCraft community. I posted the 20 players that are qualified for WGL on Twitter, and all of a sudden I felt like I had half the StarCraft 2 community in my comments, like Huck, HUK was posting.
USA.
Yeah, man, it's fascinating. This guy had 1 offline appearance in StarCraft 2, but he seems to be like a cheese god in that community, even though he didn't even play the most recent add-on. So that guy is known for a couple of years already, and people are pretty hyped to see him.
And also in StarCraft, he played a lot of ladder, so he held like the top position in America for quite some time, as far as I understand.
Okay.
So I think he was like known for being a monster on the ladder of America.
It will be interesting if he's actually bad-mannered in person or not, because I know a lot of Koreans who don't like him too much because he does offensive he does offensive GGs. And
Okay.
there's been a couple of games where he builds his main building in the opponent's face, pretty much. Like, if he thinks he has won, he builds a Great Hall in their base and such.
Wow, the Manor Great Hall.
Yeah, the Mana Great Hall, for sure. And I mean, I personally would love to see that,
Yeah.
but I'm not too sure if that's the appropriate tournament to do it. But we'll see.
Talk
Man,
about
if he does that against players of the caliber of Focus or 120, then kudos to him for those big balls, dude.
Apart from Hitman, it's quite interesting that 120 and Focus are once again in the same group. This happens quite a lot. And 1 year ago, when was the round robin system, Focus eliminated 120.
Mm-hmm.
But also, Focus is in the same group as Romantic, also called Fortitude now.
Yeah.
And
We should
Romantic
probably highlight that. Yeah.
Yeah. And Romantic is known for kicking out Focus of Gold series. So there's quite some storylines in this group. I'm really much looking forward to this.
Yeah, but Romantic hasn't been looking as strong against Org as he did in the Blade Master days.
True.
I actually think it's one of these weaker matchups now that we have seen like a lot of Farsi aggression compared to the Blade Master.
His style is kind of aggression as well, and lengthy tier 1 sessions. That doesn't fit too well against Focus Lin and Fly these days.
Not at all, no. But he has done really well against some under players, and so I think he can put on a good fight against 120.
Yeah, this group is seriously a little scary for 120.
Yeah, especially because he has this tradition of being somewhat inconsistent when it really matters. You know, he can come out swinging, looking like one of the best players in the world, but sometimes he will just have those really weird build orders or really weird games where he just throws it away seemingly. So hard to predict, man, who's going to come out on top of that. What I like about the current meta of Warcraft 3 in that respect is that every race seems to have this one grudge match, you know, where they're like, oh, as an undead, I don't want to play an orc, or as an orc, I don't want to play a human, or as a night elf, I don't want to play a human, or as a human, I don't want to play an undead. So, what do you guys think about that? Is that actually a thing, or is it more just like a superstition that a lot of people have in the scene?
I think it's been toned down a bit, like with the latest patches. I think it was worse on 1.28 and 1.29 especially.
Yeah.
I think now, like as a human, I'd say it's alright to face an undead, especially on the highest level where you know you can pull off a fast expansion without just falling apart. And I think it's the same with Orc against human. That's a very, very weird matchup right now. I speak a lot about it, but it's hard to tell which race is the better now, because if you look at the beginning of the patch, then you know human crushed Orc in tournaments, and it was like, I think Orc had a 36% win rate or something stupid. Yeah.
Holy crap.
But then they transitioned to this Farsi TC build, and then like if you look at the past, I think 2 months, then Orc actually has a quite favorable win rate. So it's very swinging right now, and I don't know how to judge this myself. I'm looking at the numbers.
Yeah, me neither. It changes pretty much week after week. And Rehcram is totally right. Like, humans were kind of used to the Wyvern play and built some Riflemen. Then the Orcs came up with this Farsia TC build to counter the Riflemen. And then the humans were like, okay, then let's skip these Riflemen and go faster Breakers instead and counter the TC with that. And so it goes back and forth and back and forth. And the weaker race seems to find an answer to what the other race is coming up with in a week or less. And that's so cool. Isn't that what a strategy game should be like?
Yeah. And even in a game as, you know, seasoned and as old as Warcraft 3, there's always a change. There's always something new that can be brought to the table. And you would think that in a game that's more than 10 years old, you know, you would think that everything has been done. Everything has been seen and done, but always players find that little niche where they're just putting in something new and something stronger.
Especially creeping, like how crazy got creeping in the last 15 months or so. Like the lightning shield creep and what the orcs do on Twisted Meadows with the golem. That's all new stuff.
The Ogre Lord Hex thing,
Exactly. So cool. Yeah, as an undead myself, by the way, I think this matchup on pro level in the very, very late game is so imbalanced. There's no way for undead to win it. It's a very strong opinion, and I will get hated for that statement. But I can't see an undead winning against 80 supply 5/3/3 human with orb, especially.
Professor Rehcram, what do you have to say to that?
I mean, I think that's true. If the human gets to level up and has the orb and gets Paladin level 3, then he is in a very good position. But the game also happens before that, so it's about how do you take advantage of your power spikes and take the lead from there and so on. So
such a blessing to hear that. Take advantage of your power spikes is, I think, the most important thing in all of Warcraft these days. And yeah, a lot of commenters don't get that really.
Yeah, I think often you see both players and commentators look at someone where they're just creeping and they take each their side, but they don't quite get that, hey, the other one just got a Naga Savage, for example, a second. He should be pressuring him and creep greedily and stuff, and they just glance over that. No, they're both creeping. That's equal. Well, it's not.
That's kind of like the charm as well when you're a commentator, when you highlight these things and players take that with them, and they can maybe apply that into their own games, that when you're an undead, you better have some impact in the early mid game, because later you might actually feel the pain of, coming up against a level 3 paladin that's just going to heal everything and nuke you down with a Mountain King level 3 bolt. It's not that easy.
True that. But isn't it fascinating how chat and comments, their opinions swing map after map?
Yeah.
Like if it's a best of 3 and it's 1-0, 1-1, 2-1, everything about this matchup is imbalanced throughout this best of 3. It's so baffling to me how the whining minority can always dominate. It's so cool. No, it's not cool at all, but it's fascinating.
I watch a lot of StarCraft 2 esports, so I totally see what you're saying, and it's just the same thing over there. In StarCraft 2, when a Protoss wins, no matter what they do, no matter how many mistakes the opponent made, it's always in chat. It's always like Protoss, Storm Imba. It's always the Protoss' fault for being OP. Just A move, Colossus, A move, easy GG. I think sometimes the Warcraft 3 community falls into that same pit. Whether all of them are meaning it or are saying it seriously or just for the memes, that's a different question. But
yeah, I hope it's just for the memes, but kind of lost faith in that. I don't know.
Yeah, I think you just have to be good at brushing it off and say, all right, that's just, people who play one race will, of course, root for that race. And if that race actually wins, then you'll say, oh, he played so much better. And if it loses, then it's because of balance. Yeah. And it gets old quite fast.
Final verdict for WGL Winter about the Western players. Who do you think is going to make it into the playoffs? And who's going to fail miserably and has to go home down with shame?
I think Happy and Hawk will make it into the next group stage.
Okay.
Happy and Hawk for sure.
Wow, that's confident.
Happy not for sure. Happy could actually lose. Okay. No, I have faith in Happy. I have faith in Hawk. And I've also faith in Foggy. Even in this group of death, he has proven me wrong so many times when I didn't believe in him. And he constantly defeated the THs, defeated the Lins, defeated whoever. So he's going to make it. I don't care. He's going to make it.
The thing is, after Foggy having a weak 2019 so far, he'll probably be looked at as an underdog now.
Yeah.
And, Happy won for sure. He was probably the underdog last video, but now I think people like Moon and people like Infi will prepare hard for him.
Mm-hmm.
So that might be a thing that talks in Foggy's favor, but I think Group B is just too ridiculous for. I don't see how he makes it out of it.
I think Hawk has a really good chance, man. He got a really doable group. If he doesn't make it there, that's definitely a disappointment. Happy.
I actually think while the group is quite weak, I think many of them are quite equal. I think VFC and both VFC and So-In also have perfectly fine chances of making it. I don't think like Hawk is a big favorite in the group. But yeah, it's not a very, very strong group compared to the others. So
Swap Hawk with Sock, for example, and then all of a sudden you're like, oh man, okay, that's gonna be rough for Hawk.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And it's not happening.
Yeah.
But I'm really glad to see that they had one Westerner in each group. That's good.
Yeah. That's how they drew these groups. I was asking some guys because I couldn't believe that these are the groups. So I asked what happened. And there was no actual seeding. It was like 3 boxes. One for China, one for Korea, one for the Western scene. So there was no seeding for China even. Like, they just pulled 2 balls out of that box for China. Okay, 2 Chinese are in Group A, 2 Koreans are in Group A, 1 Westerner is in Group A.
Wow.
In my opinion, very questionable.
Well, sometimes China does things the way China does it, right? Who are we to question that? But yeah, nevertheless, hype is real. I wish you guys all the best, man. You and Remo, you're going to kill it. I can't wait for the keeper number 2. Excuse me, guys. So yeah, final topic of the day is going to be the upcoming fight night here in Heroes Hearth. You guys, if you're listening to this, if you're watching this, you can definitely follow Heroes Hearth on Twitch or on the YouTubes because that's where the thing will be broadcasted to. Grubby and I will be casting that one. And because of BlizzCon and because some other personal stuff that I had going on last weekend, we couldn't do it. So this Friday, we're going to be back in full force, 1 a.m. So the night from Friday to Saturday, 1 a.m. Central European time. We're going to have the reigning champ Shaddai from Russia defending his title. And you know what, guys? Because you're listening to this podcast to Fast Expand, you're going to be the first ones, and Neo as well, you're going to be the first to know who the challenger is going to be. Rehcram already knows it. He has a cheeky smile on him. I know it. And we're going to show... it's a night elf. Rehcram, do you want to do us the honor and tell us who it's going to be?
I can. It will be Lil DC from Sweden.
Yeah.
And I'm actually pretty... Sweden haven't been looking as strong in in the Western scene lately as they have, but Lil DC is actually one of the players who has... in my opinion, been improving lately because he's been playing on netties and, putting up some decent results. He had a very close... Sorry?
He defeated Psy 2-0 just on Sunday in W3IL.
Yeah, and he had a very, a couple of weeks back, he had a very close game against Cash as well. Like a best of 3 that went to the very brink. It's some time ago, actually, but it goes to show that he can compete with some of the sub in Europe.
He also defeated Lex 2-0, so he seems to have a very good Night Elf versus Undead matchup, which is not too common these days.
Yeah,
but
actually,
also Shaddai.
That's pretty interesting because when you mentioned Side, and how Lil DC defeated him, and all the time ago when Shaddai was matched against Death Note, I talked to Grubby and I was like kind of trying to get Side in it, and Grubby was like, no, Side is too strong. It's not going to be fair for Death Note, if he just... faces a top tier undead. So now Lil DC defeated Side and has to play Shaddai. Wow. So that's going to be pretty hype.
Yeah, I'm a pretty big fan of Shaddai for whatever reason. Like, I don't really have a particular reason. Sometimes you just see a player do stuff and you think, oh, I like that. Like, there's no logic behind it. I just see his nickname and I see him play and that's my boy. So to me, he's still the favorite. He had very good series against Foggy not too long ago. I think his matchup versus Night Elf is pretty strong as well. Sorry for Lil DC, who I really like and met in person already, but my undead heart is beating for Shaddai.
So what do you think the best of 5 will end up in? Is it a 3-0 or is it a 3-1 or?
I think for the best of all of us, it's going to be a 3-2 full distance.
Nice. Well, I'm actually going to talk to both the players tomorrow night to, squeeze them a little bit for information to find out how strong they currently are. I know that last time Shaddai played, he actually had some really good preparation. He said that he usually only plays on the weekend, like he's this hard worker during the week, and then just the wonder, the genius that just has it in its genes to play good Warcraft 3 on the weekend, man. It's such a phenomenon. But yeah, we're going to find out what they sound like, what they have in mind for us. And the matchup is going to be Undead vs. Night Elf. Personally, one of my favorites in terms of raw matchups. What about you?
Yeah, I like it because it's changed a lot, because some people play Keeper or still, like Moon plays a lot of Keeper. And then there are other people who reverted back to the Demon Hunter and Dryad Bears. So there's some variety in the matchup. That's nice.
I'm not the biggest fan of the mass air. It can be fun at times because of the kiting, but it depends on like a very good undead who knows how to kite and a very good night elf who knows how to survive for a long time, I guess, and to focus right. Like we've seen Happy and Foggy is throwing literally 12,000 damage on Happy's Lich, and you just can't kill him, and that's very exciting. It's not one of my top 2 matchups, but still one of the better.
What are those? What are your top 2?
My top 2, Undead Orc, and at the moment, Human Orc.
Nice.
But doesn't Lil DC often play Demon Hunter against Undead?
Yeah.
Do you remember what he played? It was Demon Hunter against Side both games, wasn't it?
Pretty sure. I wasn't there. I was at a concert. So I have to watch the VOD. But of course, we can look it up because Wikipedia has us covered, hopefully.
Yeah.
All right, I have it here.
Yeah, he played Demon Hunter Naga, both games.
Yeah. That's, the old school approach.
I was going to say, that's pretty old school.
Yeah, and that was with Side also playing Gargoyles, I can see. And I think that's Gargoyles is like something that I could imagine Shaddai pulling out as well, because he's like he's one of the guys who really enjoys like ghouls and gargoyles,
yeah,
and a bit on the edge of the meta.
Yeah. Well
played.
Little Mad Frog-esque.
Yeah, I mean, we saw it a lot against Death Note as well, right? He played some. I think he played some weird strategies that caught him off guard.
What Grubby and I said during the cast as well was that Shaddai, he actually doesn't have the greatest micro. He actually made a lot of mistakes there, losing units here and there. But his strategic execution is so good. He knows exactly when to attack, where to attack, and also he seems to catch his opponent off guard with his hero choices. As you said, against Death Note, he went Pitlord first, and that guy just slammed down with Mighty Cleaves. It was... then we had, I think, was it a Dark Ranger? I think it was a Dark Ranger game in there as well. So he just plays crazy stuff, man.
Dark Ranger? Yeah, he played Lich and Death Knight and Dreadlord, wasn't it? I'm not too sure about the Pitlord, actually.
Yeah, maybe the Pitlord was someone else, but I'm pretty sure we saw a Dark Ranger.
Yeah.
But it was definitely a variety of playstyles that he had, which was so cool to see, because he told us in the interview, just play on the weekend. He also told us that his English was really bad, and then he comes on the interview, just speaks really elaborately and very well. It was quite funny.
Yeah, a great pronunciation.
Yeah.
But to talk a bit about the styles, I think it would be harder for him to win with with strategies against Lil DC, because I also see Lil DC as someone who's probably not perfect at like the micromanagement, but he's a smart player as well. So I think it will be harder to catch him off guard compared to Death Note, who's more methodical in his play, and Death Note is great at executing what he knows how to execute. At least that's my prejudice against him and against Lil DC and Shaddai.
All right. So yeah, guys, make sure to check that out on Friday, 1 a.m. CET. We would love to have you there. And I think that was our last topic of discussion on the podcast, man. It's already roughly 1 hour. Man, how quickly time flies when you're enjoying yourself, right? What are your plans for the remaining week, Neo, now that you're slowly but surely, you're leaving the BlizzCon blues and you're gearing up for China? Anything
it's time
on the
to
menu?
cast again.
Yeah.
Tomorrow, like on Wednesday and Thursday, we have the EC London 2-on-2 Cup. We have Remind and Soju in, an old school team coming back.
That's insane that he's back. Soju.
Yeah. TH and Infi are in there as well, and Ted and Hainu. Like, if you're a fan of 2-on-2, definitely come and check this out. And on Friday, we have the final of the CC Masters Cup. And there was a great cup this weekend. Like, every single game. We have the semifinals, Lin versus 1-0, and Happy versus Lawlight.
Oof.
So great on Friday.
Kind of a taste of WGL already.
Absolutely. Saturday, we have Ross Brain Cup qualifiers. Sunday, we have the last play day of W3IL group stage. 5 teams are still in the race for just 4 playoff spots. So that's going to be exciting, what the Western Clan scene is doing. And Monday night, 5 a.m., I hope you're all going to get up with me. We have NEXT offline tournament in China for like $16,000. It's going to be tough to get up at like 3:30 to get
Holy
ready.
Shit,
to
you
cast
mad
at
lad,
5.
dude. I'm gonna try to be on your side there, man. I'm gonna set my alarm.
I mean, you're casting at 1 a.m. as well. You kind of know that.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's great times again to be a Warcraft fan, and we're gonna cover as much as possible.
Love it. And of course, guys, you can catch that at twitch.tv/Back2Warcraft or on the YouTubes if you can make all the games. There's always going to be a relatively quick VOD upload there. And Rehcram, you're going to watch all that?
I mean, I'll at least catch the highlights. I don't know if I'll be able to watch it all because that's a lot. I don't like 2v2 isn't really my forte or my favorite, so I might just look at Wikipedia for that one. But I'm looking so much forward to Friday when CC Masters will be played.
Yeah, it's gonna be sick.
Yeah, there's some stacked matches already. So,
all right, cool. Final words out there. Some shout outs, maybe some greetings, Neo.
Well, I love that the Warcraft 3 scene finally has a podcast. I tried it myself and I failed after 3 episodes. So I hope you hang in. I hope you do better than I did. And I'm pretty sure that you can do it. I'm just happy that we got so many cool content creators, and the scene is so nice to each other, and
can confirm, yeah.
Seems to support each other, and I hope it stays this way with Reforged. That's my biggest hope.
Nice. It was really awesome to have you on the show, man. So keep doing what you're doing, keep being awesome. Same. And I would love to have you on the show once again if we make it past episode 3. Fingers crossed.
Always up for it, mate.
Would be great. So yeah, guys, have a great weekend. Have a great rest of the week whenever you hear this, and we'll see you on either Back to Warcraft's channel or our own for Fight Night. Until then, see you on the next episode of Fast Expand. Take care, guys.